The greatest movements that have altered the course of history have been the products of great ideas in the realm of political theory. The 17th and 18th centuries proved to be a period that produced some of the most powerful revolutionary ideas that have fueled the flames of rebellion against traditional power politics and that continue to inspire people of the world today. The revolutionary ideas of the philosophers became prime movers in the rise of the enlightened despots who ruled as absolute monarchs but who tried to serve their people. It was their ideas that fanned the flames of revolution that sought to change the status quo in popular sovereignty. This was the Age of Reason. Thomas Hobbes was an English philosopher considered to be one of the founders of modern political philosophy. Hobbes is best known for his 1651 book, Leviathan, in which he expounds an influential formulation of social contract theory, where people agreed to surrender their individual powers to a government. The government was meant to protect them from each other. The government that Hobbes proposed was to be all-powerful, controlling all aspects of government from military to economic as well as social power. John Locke was an English philosopher and physician, widely regarded as one of the most influential of Enlightenment thinkers, and commonly known as the father of liberalism. His two treatises of civil government became a pillar in the liberal political tradition. Locke believed that it is not nature that determined what man would become, but rather how he was raised and experiences that he would live through. This was his concept of tabula rasa, or blank slate. Another central idea of John Locke's treatise was his contention that human beings possess natural rights that include the right to life, liberty, and property. The Age of Enlightenment was a philosophical movement that dominated the world of ideas in Europe in the 18th century, centered on the idea that reason is the primary source of authority and legitimacy. This movement advocated such ideals as liberty, progress, tolerance, fraternity, constitutional government, and the separation of church and state. Salons were social gatherings of the elite, usually hosted by a lady of high stature, held luxurious drawing rooms. This period was called the Age of Reason, primarily because of the emphasis that political thinkers placed on the primacy of reason in understanding the world in which they lived and in formulating solutions to their problems. Baron Charles de Montesquieu, in 1748, he published his masterpiece, The Spirit of the Laws, that tells that the powers of the government resided in three separate and independent bodies: the executive power, the legislative power, and the judicial power. To this day, the principle of separation of powers continues, upheld by governments all over the world. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, another giant in the field of political thought. His most important works was Le Contrat Social, or the Social Contract. His main thesis was the ideal state must be governed by the general will of the people. His political philosophy influenced the progress of the Enlightenment throughout Europe, as well as aspects of the French Revolution and the development of modern political, economic, and educational thought. Voltaire, François-Marie Arouet. Voltaire was a dominant force during the Age of Reason. He has been described as the leader and the symbol of intellectual rebellion against traditional ideas and institutions. He was considered as one of the intellectual fathers of the French Revolution, ardent advocate of tolerance and civil liberties. Candide was considered his most important work. He wrote more than 20,000 letters and 2,000 books and pamphlets. He was one of the first authors to become renowned and commercially successful internationally. Denis Diderot. He was the editor of French Encyclopedia together with John D'Alembert. That was a compilation of works of the most prominent philosophers and intellectuals of the time. It consisted of 24 volumes and featured articles written by Voltaire and Montesquieu. Adam Smith. The Wealth of Nations. The most important work of Adam Smith. This book explained the concept of laissez-faire, economics. Prosperity could best be achieved by simply allowing individuals to pursue their interests without the interference of the state through its state-owned companies or laws. He was the father of economics and the father of capitalism. Scientific Revolution. The Scientific Revolution was a series of events that marked the emergence of modern science during the early modern period, when developments in mathematics, physics, astronomy, biology, and chemistry transformed the views of society about nature. The Scientific Revolution took place in Europe towards the end of the Renaissance period and continued through the late 18th century, influencing the intellectual social movement known as the Enlightenment. The view that the universe operated like a machine that could be understood by human beings emboldened initiatives to experiment and to explore knowledge about it that led some of them to challenge and even correct ancient and traditional misconceptions about the world and the universe that had long been accepted without question. Nicholas Copernicus, Renaissance-era mathematician, astronomer, and Catholic canon who formulated a model of the universe that placed the sun, rather than Earth, at the center of the universe. The publication of Copernicus' model in his book, De Revolutionibus Orbium Coelestium, or On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres, just before his death in 1543, was a major event in the history of science, triggering the Copernican revolution and making a pioneering contribution to the scientific revolution. Johannes Kepler. He was a German astronomer, mathematician, and astrologer. He is a key figure in the 17th century scientific revolution, best known for his laws of planetary motion. Galileo Galilei. He was the trailblazer in both physics and astronomy. His works, Law of Pendulum and the first hydrostatic balance, that determined the density of an object by weighing in water. Law of falling bodies is his most significant formulation. He developed the first astronomical telescope, allowed him to peer into the heavens and see the rings of Saturn and deep craters of the moon. Isaac Newton, English mathematician, physicist, astronomer, theologian, and author, described in his own day as a natural philosopher, who is widely recognized as one of the most influential scientists of all time and as a key figure in the scientific revolution. His greatest work was the Law of Universal Gravitation that was published in the book The Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, known as Principia. Laws of motion and calculus to provide the mathematical formulations to elucidate the laws formulated. Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon distinguished himself as a philosopher of scientific method. He advocated the view that true knowledge must be acquired through empiricism, or knowledge derived from sense experience, entailing direct observation of the world. His greatest work was the Novum Organum, or New Organum, or Method of Scientific Inquiry, published in 1620. René Descartes. Descartes was a rationalist who advocated the view that self-evident proportions deducted by reasons are the sole basis of all knowledge. He is perhaps best remembered for his maximum cogito ergo sum, which means I think, therefore I am.